Hey, good evening. Good evening. I am so excited that you are here with me tonight. I am going to talk about procrastination. So I'm not going to beat around the bush. Haha. If you're jumping on live, say hi in the chat. I'm going to pull it up on my phone here to make sure that everything is streaming properly. But I would love it if you could tell me if you can hear me and let me know where you are tuning in from. That would be awesome. So here we go. Refresh. Yep. Whoa, I can see me and hear me. Hopefully, you didn't hear that. Um, okay, so let me know if you're jumping on live. I know a lot of you are watching different places, and some of you will be watching the replay. A lot of people, this was a holiday, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and so we hopefully took some time to honor and celebrate and reflect on all of the positive things that he has done. I live here in Memphis, so it's kind of a big deal here in my city. So anyway, my husband, he ran some kind of a race today, race for reconciliation, and it was a little bit rainy, but he said it was still fun. So if you're jumping on live, say hi in the chat and let me know where you're tuning in from. Not seeing comments, so I'm hoping you can hear me. I'm going to go ahead and get started because, after all, we're talking about procrastination, right? So we don't want to procrastinate talking about procrastination. And actually, I am going to go into more depth. If you are interested in this type of topic, I'm going to go in more depth this week in my Focus and Flow group, which is a paid membership group. And they get a little more training. They get some Zoom calls every once in a while. And so I'm going to talk tonight about one reason people procrastinate. But if you're interested in hearing all of the reasons and a little bit more about what you can do about it, it's just $27 a month. And so if you just put in the chat membership, just put membership, and I'll send you the link to sign up, and that'll be Wednesday. Anyway, let's go ahead and talk about the one. I don't know if it's the main reason, but it's one of the biggest reasons that people tend to put things off, and that's perfectionism. And procrastination, uh, ADHD, and perfectionism, go together. ADHD and perfectionism and procrastination. They're all related. They're very commonly seen together. And putting things off, that's a common known challenge of people with ADHD. And you may be watching this and you may not have ADHD. That's cool. I have it. So I always give strategies that work for me. And what I found is they work for other people as well. But if it often happens when a task seems too hard, or if it takes too much effort or just seems incredibly boring. And there are different kinds of procrastination. There is the perfectionism procrastination. That's that inability to start or finish a task um, if certain idealistic conditions are not perfectly in place. And these special conditions are believed to keep us from making mistakes and reduce future shame, And then you've got the avoidance procrastination. That's putting off or delaying a task that seems too difficult or extremely unpleasant. um, and, having no confidence in their ability just adds to the person's difficulty. And then trying to figure out how to measure and approach a task. And sometimes that's because maybe they have experiences with previous failure. Um, and we do have productive procrastination. That's when people say, I work better under pressure. Um, and if something's not urgent, they don't want to do it right away. Um, and then, it's really a delay tactic. it gives you short-term relief, but it increases long-term stress. So how do we avoid this procrastination that comes from perfectionism? First of all, you have to know that that's why you're procrastinating. So you have to build awareness. You've heard of mindfulness, but it really is important to think about why you are doing things the way that you do them. Investigate, like stand back and kind of look at yourself with curiosity and investigate, why are you procrastinating? Look at your perfectionism. What is it that you're so afraid of if things aren't perfect? And ask yourself, what kind of standard are you trying to meet and why? What's the underlying worry and how can you shift that? This is something, just in complete transparency, this is something that I really struggle with. I think it just comes, it's like a low self-esteem where I feel like if I don't achieve, or if I don't perform perfectly, then I'm gonna be rejected, or I'm gonna disappoint people or something. I don't know where all that came from, but you have to kind of know what's going on psychologically before the perfectionism. What is it that you're worried is going to happen if things are not perfect? Do you need to feel accepted? Do you need to feel like you're good enough? Do you like accolades and praise? Um, and those desires often lie underneath perfectionism. They go along with ADHD. We have some, you've heard the phrase imposter syndrome, and we worry that we're not measuring up, and that people are going to find out that we're an imposter, um, because their expectation is going to be higher than what we can deliver. And we have this fear of failure and fear of feeling shame. And some of that comes from your childhood. Some of that comes from just feeling misunderstood, maybe because of ADHD or some other reason. Um, you think, I would be so embarrassed if people found out that I'm really not as together as I appear. So there's that fear of shame or embarrassment. And then, you've got those little voices that say that kind of stuff to you, like, if I mess up, I'm a bad person. Where did we get that? Everybody messes up. Does it sound familiar? So let me see if I got anybody here in the chat. Hey, Kathy. Yeah, we got a few people. If you can relate to that, um, just say me in the chat. And if you're watching the replay or somewhere else, me, I'd love to know if you struggle with that fear of failure, perfectionism. We make mistakes and we expect judgment, and we expect to be humiliated or rejected. And that creates a false belief that we're somehow deficient. And that often accompanies ADHD and perfectionism. So you have to change the way you talk to yourself. I caught myself last night beating myself up, and I stopped and I said, what am I doing? I had messed up the dinner, and I was so frustrated because I felt like I'd messed up a bunch of things yesterday, and then it just it was like, just topped it all off. Why not? I just ruined the dinner too. Like I started being like, I can't do anything right, and I just was so negative. And I thought, would I talk to a friend like that? Probably not. I mean, we all make mistakes, and that doesn't mean you have to switch it. And you say to yourself, we all make mistakes. This doesn't mean I'm a bad person, right? Instead of, I can't do anything right, blah, blah, blah. You have to change, you have to stop it. I even said out loud, stop. And because I was talking to myself, you know, and say to yourself, I'm trying my best. Sometimes it'll work, and sometimes it will not work out, and that's okay. Um, you can even write these kind of messages to yourself on sticky notes and put them on your bathroom mirror, or just something that you want to say to yourself that lifts you out of that perfectionism. And the second thing I would suggest is just to shift your focus. Pay attention to what's working instead of what isn't. Notice the good as much as or more than you notice the challenges, because we always want to remember how we've messed up, but we forget to look at all of the things that we did right. And research shows that gratitude reduces negativity, it fosters a positive outlook, it lifts your mood. Um, so there's something to be said for that. Learn to enjoy small achievements as much as the big ones. And I know this is difficult for a perfectionist, but with practice, you'll learn to set accurate expectations for yourself and for others. Because if you're hard on yourself, chances are you're very hard on other people, which might even be creating some relational problems. Am I starting to meddle now? um, that's what we say in church when the pastor, you know, says something that's particularly personally convicting. We think, oh, you're starting to meddle now, getting in on my business. But I do struggle with this myself, so I totally get it. I really do understand. If you start appreciating the little things, then you're going to notice soon that they'll add up. They add up to a larger sense of self-worth. Nobody else is going to make you feel okay about yourself. Let me say that again. Nobody else is going to make you feel okay about yourself. That's up to you. And you may have a lot of negativity around you, but you're in charge of what you say to yourself and which messages you receive and which you throw out. Stop comparing, your insides to other people's outsides. Does that make sense? Because you don't know what's going on the inside of them. And so they may look like they have it all together, but you really don't know what they're struggling with. So some people call that compare and despair. So you want to avoid that. Everybody's social media feed, they're not going to put the ugliest face, ugly hair and all that. They're going to put something that looks nice so that they can present an image to other people. And so you don't want to compare your mistakes to other people's images of their together life, right? And a lot of people, they'll hide their worries and their fears. So don't assume that they're in a better place just because they look or act um, more put together than you. Instead of always looking sideways, glance backwards and acknowledge how far you've come and look forward to seeing where you're going. In my coaching program, one of the things that I like to do is go around and have everybody share one win for the week. And sometimes people have a hard time thinking of something, but it doesn't have to be big. We all have wins every week, and it's important to acknowledge those and to look back and to see how far you've come. Um, and the third thing is just accept mistakes. Know that learning and making mistakes they're part of living. They're important parts of living. And I've talked before about a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. We talk about that in education a lot. A fixed mindset limits you to believe that when you make a mistake, it represents personal, unchangeable flaws, like you can't change. But a growth mindset, or one, let's say, of a recovering perfectionist, you know that you can make a mistake, you can pick yourself up, and you can try again. And you push through. And when things get hard, and things are challenging, and you start to feel kind of that panicky feeling, you push through, and you come out stronger on the other side. because you can change and you can grow. And just because you make a mistake or you've made a series of mistakes doesn't mean that that is your future. You can always change and grow. And so you have to practice compassion on yourself. Be kinder to yourself when things don't turn out like you want. You want to avoid that negative, harsh self talk. You want to, how do I say it? Like to turn your attention away from all of that noise, internal noise of worthlessness. So again, it takes some mindfulness. You got to be aware of what you're saying to yourself. Like I was saying it out loud last night to my husband, and I was able to catch myself. But sometimes we're just saying it in our head and it's a little more subtle. So you have to catch yourself and notice your progress. Anxiety erases memories of success. When you start to feel anxious, you forget about how far you've come. Or if you're a person of faith like me, you forget sometimes how God has taken care of you in the past, and the ways that He's changed you. So you got to keep track of your moments of triumph because they offer hope for the future. You know, and when you get feedback, receive it with grace. Feedback is important. Someone will always have something to say about you and your actions, especially if you live here in the South, and they'll um, try to dress it up by saying, "Bless her heart" or "Bless your heart" at the end, like that makes it okay. But you're going to get criticism. You try to accept what you hear, negative or positive, with just try to be neutral, you know, and receive it with grace, and then consider the source. Is this somebody that you should listen to at all? And if it is, mull it over and decide if it has validity or not. Throw out what's not true, and learn from the things that are true. Reflective listening to deflect that overly emotional response. Like, what I heard you say is X. Did I get that right? That's going to ground you and kind of, because if you have ADHD, you tend to be impulsive. And those impulsive emotions take over whenever you feel like you're being attacked, right? Plus, you acknowledge what they said without being defensive if you do that. So you determine if there's any truth to what you hear. Are you the kind of person who dismisses compliments? Flipping it around, we don't like criticism, but maybe you need to learn to accept compliments with grace as well. Can you learn something from the feedback and make a change? How can this feedback move you forward in your life? So you acknowledge the feedback, and you can be accountable without accepting like unnecessary blame. But your goal is to stay present, avoid being defensive, stop this shame spiral that's triggered by critical feedback, and apply what makes sense to you, throw out the rest. And when you're thinking about procrastination and perfectionism, make sure your goals are realistic. Use your own compass to determine what's possible. Start to think about what you can handle rather than just, blindly applying these unachievable standards that others set. Maybe I can't do everything that somebody else does, and that's okay. Think about what you would like to move toward rather than what you think other people want you to do or what you should do. And set limits. If you're unsure about what somebody's asking you to do, be honest with yourself about what you can handle. Stop and take the time to figure that out before you just charge ahead, And there are goals that we can complete most of the time with minimal support. And then there are medium ones, and then there are ones that are not in your wheelhouse yet. And knowing the difference between those goals and differentiating is important. That's going to help you determine how much space and resources you need to do those things, instead of trying to be a perfectionist. Try to have no more than 2 major goals at one time. And if you have ADHD, you could try to improve the executive functioning skills that are tied to perfectionism, like things like time management and uh, organization, things like that. These are things that I help people with in my coaching program. Um, and you have to accept that life has time constraints and that it's reasonable to be good enough. I teach the people in my coaching program, done beats perfect. Given the deadline and your other commitments, you have to do just good enough and be okay with that and let go of it. You know, learn organizational skills, and planning and prioritizing skills, emotional control, how to handle stress and anxiety. All of those things are things that I help people with in my coaching. So if that's something you feel like you need extra help with, let me know. Um, I have a free live workshop coming up January 28th and 29th. It's called Turn Your Distraction to Action. And I would love to invite you to that. I'll put the link in the chat. It's going to be in my free Facebook group. So overcoming perfectionism, sometimes you need some help. And it doesn't mean that you eliminate all of your worries, but rather you're changing your reaction to the worries. You're looking for role models. Notice how people you admire get things done, and what do they leave undone. Excuse me. And then recognize when you're being too nitpicky. Is that a word? What are you putting off doing because you want it done perfectly? Because remember, when it comes to productivity, done beats what? Done beats perfect every time. So I am curious to know what you guys think. Let me, I can't see the chat up there. So any comments or, hey, Larjo, hey, Andrea, PJ, is it Danny or Danny? Yeah. Hey, everybody. So if you have a question or a comment, and remember, I have a longer, more detailed training that has PowerPoint slides and everything coming in my Focus and Flow group on Wednesday night. So if you want more, stay tuned for that. And if you're not in Focus and Flow, it's really easy to join. I'll put the link in the chat. It's just $27 a month for now. That is going to go up. So if it's something you've been thinking about doing, now would be the time to do it, because we're in a new year, and I will be raising that rate. So the challenge coming up, or the workshop at the end of the month, is free, and the Focus and Flow is $27 a month. Both great bargains. So do you guys have any comments or questions? Hey, Lisa. Yay. Lisa is in my hometown, and I know her from way back when I was young and skinny. Yeah. So what comments do you guys have? What questions? Very quiet group tonight. I feel like I'm just talking to myself. Yeah, Lisa, I didn't know you were in this group. Are you in my group? Or are you watching? Maybe you're watching on YouTube. All right. Live. All right. Awesome. And Larjo is in Focus and Flow. So good for her. So, hey, if you, yeah, I love done beats perfect. I do too. I did not make it up, so I can't take credit for it. But it really is a good motto for me, because I tend to overthink things, and make things more complicated than they need to be. And then I procrastinate. So I've gotten strategies that work for that now. And I'm going to go over some of those later this week in Focus and Flow. So if no one else has any comments or questions, and of course, if you're watching on the replay, put your comments or questions in, and I will go back and look at those. But I will wish you a good week. Hope you had a great Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Kathy said everything was spot on, especially the self-criticism. Yes, Kathy, you're so awesome. I don't know why you need to criticize yourself, but it's always easier for other people to see the good in us than us to see it in ourselves sometimes. Yeah. And Kathy went through my coaching program, so she knows some strategies and she's gotten a lot better. Okay, guys, you have a great night. If you're in Focus and Flow, I'll see you later this week. And I'm going to put, as soon as I can't talk and type at the same time. So as soon as I end this call, I will put I'll put the link in the chat and you can sign up for the free workshop. Have a good night.